My fiancé told me she needed space, then blocked me while backpacking Europe. I stayed quiet, let her enjoy her freedom, but what I did next made her regret every step she took away from me. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. The last thing Sarah ever said to me before flying off to Europe was, "Don't take this the wrong way, I just need space to think." That was 6 weeks before our wedding. She blocked me the same day her plane landed in Rome. At first, I thought it was an accident, or bad Wi-Fi. Then I saw her Instagram. She wasn't just alive and well. She was glowing, gelato in Florence, clubbing in Ibiza, late-night wine tasting with Megan. Her ring wasn't in a single photo. I didn't flip out. I didn't spam her inbox or call her mom. I waited, because somewhere in me, there was still this hope she's text "I'm sorry." I needed time. I'm ready now. Instead, what came was silence. 6 weeks of it. And that's when I opened the box. It was a small wedding planning box we kept in our closet. Sarah loved organizing things: venue brochures, guest lists, honeymoon itineraries. Even little color swatches for bridesmaids' dresses. She labeled everything. I sat on our bedroom floor, pulled the box down, and opened it like it was a coffin. Right on top was our shared wedding timeline. Each week was highlighted. We were on week 7, confirm vendor final payments. She hadn't canceled a thing. According to the venue, catering was still booked under my credit card. I kept going, found a printed calendar she made: final dress fitting May 12. That was 4 days ago. She was in Berlin. No dress fitting happened. I flipped the page. That's when a name popped out: Mark Dillard, her cousin. But not just that. Next to his name she'd written, "Talk to Mark Ray, transfer by May 1. Transfer." My stomach twisted. The day she flew out was April 29. I did not know what she was trying to transfer. But for the first time, I felt it. This wasn't a cold feet situation. Sarah was planning something, and I had a sick feeling I'd find it in the money trail. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I kept staring at that note in the box: "Talk to Mark Ray, transfer by May 1. It didn't make sense. Mark was barely in our lives. I'd seen him twice, once at a 4th of July BBQ, and once at Sarah's birthday. That's it. He didn't seem like someone she'd trust with wedding logistics, let alone something called a transfer. The next morning, I logged into our joint wedding account. We'd opened it 6 months ago. It was supposed to be for gifts, deposits, and any big shared wedding purchases. We each had access, but Sarah handled most of the payments. What I saw made my throat close up. $16,820 missing. Fawn, the last transaction, May 2, a wire to something labeled Portwell Solutions. It wasn't a vendor. I googled it. It was a travel fund company. One of those new startups that lets people park money for long-term international living or life transitions. I cross-referenced her emails. Nothing. But then I remembered we had a shared Dropbox folder. She used it to upload scanned receipts and confirmation feds for tax purposes. I opened it, and right there, buried in a soft blotter called Backup Honeymoon Options, was a scanned authorization form. It wasn't for the honeymoon. It was a power of attorney, giving Mark Dillard the right to handle financial decisions in her name. It was dated April 27, witnessed, notarized. The document sat on my screen like a slap. Sarah wasn't coming back. She hadn't just taken a break. She'd transferred legal access to someone I barely knew, and she'd done it before boarding her flight. I didn't even know how to feel. I just knew I had to find Mark, but I couldn't go to Sarah's family, not yet. They'd either lie for her or warn her I was sniffing around. So I called someone who wouldn't do either: Jake Foster, my best man. I sent him the Dropbox link. He texted back 2 minutes later: "Bro, this looks like she's setting you up. You need to lock your shit down." Now Jake wasn't overreacting. I called the bank that same afternoon, the one tied to our wedding account, and asked to flag all further transfers. They wouldn't do it. The account was still technically joint, and Sarah hadn't been removed. She still had full access. But the rep paused when I asked about the Portwell transaction. "Sir," she said, tapping keys in the background, "this wire was requested from an IP address in Naples, Italy. Is that where you are now?" I almost laughed. "No, that would be my fiancé." The line went quiet. "Understood. Well, we do have her digital signature for the transaction. Everything was authenticated. Can I get a copy of that?" "I'm afraid not. Only the signatory can request that." Of course, I hung up and called Jake back. "She moved the money while in Naples. That's her third stop, right? Rome, Florence, then Naples yet. And guess who the beneficiary of the wire is?" Mark. I nodded. Even though he couldn't see me, Portwell Solutions is a fund. But Mark's name is listed as the contact person on the transfer. Jake went quiet. Then he asked something I hadn't even considered. "Do you think this was her plan the whole time? Like fake a soft breakup, make it seem mutual, and then bounce with the cash?" I didn't want to believe that. Sarah and I had been together for 3 years. She'd cried when I proposed. She picked out her dress. She spent hours with me planning the seating chart. Who fakes that? But then I thought about the look on her face the morning she left. That need space talk? It was rehearsed, dry, no emotion, and the blocking, that wasn't heat of the moment. That was strategy. I opened the guest registry next. It was hosted through a wedding site. There, listed under our digital serve-up list, I noticed something strange. Katie Mitchell, Sarah's bridesmaid, had declined the invite after Sarah left for Europe. I texted Katie, "Hey, just curious, did Sarah tell you the wedding was off?" I noticed your serve-up changed, she replied 5 minutes later. Oh god, Travis, I thought you knew. She told us she'd cancelled everything. That you agreed to push it back. I'm so sorry. Wait, she didn't tell you? I stared at the screen. No, Katie, she didn't. By the time Katie finished texting me a screenshot of the group chat, my hands were shaking. It was Sarah's bridal party group thread. She'd told them on May 3, "Hey loves, quick update, Travis and I have mutually decided to postpone the wedding. I'll be doing some extended travel while we sort through things. Thank you for understanding, hunk, mutually." She made it sound like I'd agreed to everything. Meanwhile, I was still making final vendor payments. I needed answers and not the ones filtered through Sarah's curation machine. So I went to the only boss who ever treated me like a person instead of a placeholder, Rachel, her younger sister. Rachel worked at a bookstore downtown. I showed up on a Tuesday afternoon. Knowing it was her usual shift, she looked surprised to see me hesitant. "Even Travis," she said, straightening a stack of mystery novels. "You okay?" "No," I said. "But I need to ask you something." Off the record, she looked around and led me to the staff room. I pulled up the wire transfer, the notarized form, the serve-up change, then I asked the question that had been killing me for days. "Rachel, did Sarah ever say anything to you about leaving for good? Not just taking a break, but exiting the whole thing?" Rachel blinked. "What do you mean? Like transferring money, giving Mark power of attorney, telling her friends the wedding was off behind my back?" I watched her face. She wasn't shocked, she was careful. "Look," she finally said, "I don't know what Sarah's told you, but she was really overwhelmed. She said she needed a clean break to reset things, and that includes disappearing for 6 weeks. She told me not to get involved." Rachel said quietly. "But I did notice she deleted a bunch of stuff before leaving, apps, messages, even her backup account." "What backup?" Rachel paused. "The one we used for family trip photos. Sarah used to upload everything there. She said she didn't want digital clutter anymore." I pulled out my phone. "What platform?" "Flickstack," she said. But she wiped her account. I didn't say anything. I just stood there, jaw clenched, because I still had access to that account. We used it to plan our honeymoon visuals. I thanked Rachel and walked out without buying a thing. 10 minutes later in my car, I logged into Flickstack. The account was active, but one folder was renamed last week. Inside were 4 photos. One was of Sarah, sitting at a bar with Mark Dillard. They were holding hands. I stared at the photo for a long time. Sarah, Mark, hands intertwined on a marble counter, half-full wine glasses between them. She wasn't looking at the camera. He was. There was no denying what I saw. That wasn't cousinly affection. That was intimacy, comfort, familiarity. I zoomed in. The photo had been uploaded 6 days ago. The metadata, taken in Lisbon, which meant her whole solo trip was a lie. That was the moment it all shifted for me. This wasn't ghosting, this was a coordinated exit strategy, and I was the soft landing they'd planned to exploit. I called Jake again. "Dude," he said, "I've been waiting, tell me you got something." I sent him the photo. His response: "She's with him, bro. This isn't about cold feet, this is a setup." Jake was pissed, more than I was. He'd seen me pour everything into Sarah, helping her through her career change. Co-signing her car when her credit was crap, covering her medical bill last fall when she forgot to submit her insurance, and now she was on a European romance tour with her cousin. Except that's when it hit me. Was he even her cousin? I pulled up her old family tree doc from our wedding paperwork. You know, the thing we filled out for seating charts and name cards? Mark Dillard was there, but listed as second cousin via marriage. Tom's side, Tom Voss, Sarah's dad. The one who always made side remarks like, "Travis, you'll learn women just want security. Or in this family, loyalty is earned." I remembered how he insisted we not invite Mark to the rehearsal dinner. At the time, I thought it was about drama. No, I wondered if it was about guilt. Jake and I started digging. I sent him every document, note and screenshot I had. While I combed through emails, he hit Facebook and public records. 40 minutes later he called me back. "Yo, you're not gonna like this." It hit me. Mark Dillard isn't listed under any of Tom Voss's relatives. But guess where his name does show up? Where Lisa Voss's mortgage co-signer. 10 years ago, same address, same town, registered under the name Mark L. Dillard. I felt sick. "You're saying he's her brother, half-brother maybe, but definitely not some distant cousin, and definitely not unrelated." Which meant I wasn't just betrayed, I was being triangulated. Sarah faked a breakdown, fled with a man she called her cousin, and both of them were on Lisa Voss's family documents. I wasn't dealing with a breakup, I was dealing with a long con. After Jake confirmed the mortgage link, I just sat in my car for a while. No music, no calls, just that thick, suffocating silence. Mark wasn't a cousin. He was family, the kind they kept off paper, but still trusted, with thousands of dollars and a disappearing bride. And I was the useful idiot footing the wedding bill. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about that note Sarah left in the planning box. "Talk to Mark, Ray, transfer by Malon." The timing lined up perfectly. She gave him power of attorney, vanished, and wired money from Europe, which meant Mark had access not just to her money, but potentially mine, anything we co-owned, and we did co-own one thing. She insisted we get early: a wedding asset lockbox. It was Sarah's idea. She said we should keep all essential legal and financial docs somewhere neutral just in case. It was a private Off-site safe at a financial planning office. Her father recommended Vosbury downtown. I hadn't thought about it in weeks, until now. I drove there the next morning and told the receptionist I needed to access our box. She smiled politely, took my aid, and returned 5 minutes later with a man I'd never seen before. "Hi, I'm Alan Bray, managing partner. Can we step into my office?" We sat. He folded his hands. "Mr. Ellison, I'm afraid your access to the box was revoked." "What?" I blinked. "That's a joint authorization. I paid half the annual fee." He nodded calmly. "Correct. But Ms. Voss submitted a notarized revision last month. She cited concerns for privacy and requested sole access. She did that without informing me." Alan didn't flinch. "It's legal." She included the power of attorney from Mark Dillard to confirm her decision-making proxy. I felt like the floor was tilting. "Can I at least see the document that removed me?" I asked. "I'm sorry, that would violate her privacy." I left the office on autopilot, but I wasn't done. I called Jake. They shut me out. Mark used the POA to cut my access. That lockbox might have held everything: our prenup, the deed draft, even the will adjustments from her dad. "Travis," he said slowly, "you think there's something in there she didn't want you to see?" "Yes." He was quiet for a beat. Then we don't go through the front door." That night, we met outside Vosbury. Jake used to work for a corporate law firm. He still had access to a few tools. The building had motion-sensitive cameras and a rear alley entrance. We didn't break in, but we waited. At 9:47 p.m., an older cleaning woman arrived. She used a pin pad on the side door. Jake recorded the code on his phone, 4 digits, easy. The next night, while the cleaners were still inside, we entered posing as late-shift vendors. Jake had made us fake badges that said Data X Solutions Backup Audit. It worked. We slid past the admin floor, down a hallway, and found the digital registry archive. Their internal system was old, unencrypted. Jake got in, and there, sitting under Sarah's client Ed, was a scan of the revised access form. But not just that. A notarized statement, from Lisa Voss, dated April 24. It read, "In the event of Sarah's extended travel, I authorize my son Mark Dillard to act in her stead regarding all family-linked assets, including the wedding estate items. This will be kept confidential." Her son, she wrote it down, signed it, notarized it. They never thought I'd see this. I stared at the scan of Lisa Voss' statement. "My son, Mark Dillard, no more euphemisms, no more cousin through marriage." She admitted it, under oath. He was her son Sarah's half-brother. And they gave him access to our wedding assets. My money, my legal documents, my life. Jake looked over my shoulder. "We send this now to who?" I asked. He didn't hesitate. "Rachel." I hesitated. "She's still her sister." "Exactly, which means if she's halfway decent, this will wreck her." We exported the def, encrypted it with a password, and sent it to Rachel with a simple message: "I need you to see what they hid from me. I'm not asking you to pick sides, but I'm done being quiet." Then we waited. 10 minutes passed, then 20. At the 35-minute mark, my phone buzzed. "Rachel Voss, you have no idea what you just uncovered. I'm coming to your place. I need to talk alone." She showed up 30 minutes later, still in her work clothes, hair pinned back, hands shaking. I let her in. She didn't even sit. "You were right," she said. "About all of it. About Mark, about the POA, about Mom." "Did you know?" I asked quietly. I knew something was off. But Mom made me promise never to ask about Mark. She called him a family complication. Her voice broke. I didn't know she'd actually put his name on legal docs. I pulled up the photo from Lisbon. Sarah and Mark, the hand holding the wine. Rachel covered her mouth. "Oh my God, she's not coming back, is she?" I said as she didn't answer right away. Then she said she was supposed to fly to Boston next week. "Dad's transferring a property into her name." I blinked. "What property?" "Our lake house, the one they bought before I was born. It was in a trust under Dad's LX. At last I heard, Sarah asked him to re-title it, said it was part of her fresh start." Something in me snapped. She ghosts me, takes the money, lies to everyone, then inherits real estate while I get stuck with a $42 vendor tab. Rachel dug in her bag. "There's more. I found this at Mom's house." She handed me a folded piece of paper, old, yellowed. At the top it said Amendment to Property Trust Beneficiary Change. It wasn't signed, but it listed Sarah Voss as sole inheritor, and in the margin, someone had scribbled a note: "Final version signed May 8. Copy held at Lake House basement filing drawer." I looked at Rachel. She looked at me. I already knew what I had to do. I was going to that lake house. And I wasn't leaving until I had something they couldn't erase. The lake house sat at the edge of Andover Pines, 2 hours out of the city, quiet, white-trimmed, and set far back from the road behind a line of thick cedar trees. It was the kind of place people called a generational asset. The kind of place you pass down like love or lies. Tom Voss used to joke that it would be our honeymoon spot. He said it once while handing me a beer and slapping my shoulder, like I was already part of the family. Now I parked a half block away and approached on foot. Jake stayed in the car, engine running. I had Rachel's warning. The back door key was always taped inside the hose box. It was still there. The house was empty. Lisa had a standing yoga class on Thursdays. Tom was in Boston all week finalizing the supposed transfer Rachel mentioned. And Sarah, still off the grid. I stepped inside. Everything was clean, quiet, untouched, except for the scent, lavender and wood polish, the same smell that clung to Sarah's hair after she visited this place. The basement was unfinished, musty, old workbench in the corner. Filing cabinet against the far wall. I pulled the drawer, third folder down, Property Trust Lake House Original Amendments. I scanned the tabs until I found one, dated May 8. It was signed. I, Tom Voss, witnessed, stamped. The name of the new beneficiary? Sarah Voss, full transfer, no contingency. But what caught my eye wasn't the amendment. It was the attached clause, there, in small type, upon transfer, all joint marital assets between Sarah Voss and Travis Ellison shall be considered financially null. Any outstanding debt or prior wedding expenses shall not be acknowledged as binding between parties. I reread it. This wasn't just a gift, it was a legal burn notice. Tom knew Sarah was leaving me, and he set it up so I couldn't legally reclaim a single dollar, unless I flipped back 2 pages, and there it was, a prior version, dated March 12. Still listing both me and Sarah as shared occupants pending legal marriage. No signatures, just a note Sarah requested to delay signing until post-wedding. My heart pounded. That delay was the wedge, that delay was the lie. They drafted it with me on the deed. Then removed me once they knew she was leaving, and the kicker, the digital signature on the final transfer, it was uploaded from Portugal. They weren't just cleaning up after a breakup, they were erasing me before I even knew we were over. I pulled out my phone. Took photos front, back, metadata stamps, dropped copies into a locked Google Drive I'd set up the night before, shared it with Jake and Rachel's and myself. I wasn't me letting this one disappear. As I backed out of the basement, I stopped at the kitchen counter. There, sitting next to a fruit bowl, was a printed itinerary. Sarah Voss, arrival June 5, Boston Logan, 3:15 p.m., 2 days from now. She was coming home 2 days. That's all the time I had before Sarah landed in Boston, walking straight into the life she'd carefully rewritten without me. I didn't want to scream, I wanted to prove. No more asking for answers, no more waiting for a text that would never come. She built a maze to escape me. I was going to burn it from the inside out. First, I met with Jake at a downtown Cowerquink space. He brought a portable scanner, his personal laptop, and a burner cloud account. We uploaded everything: the lockbox, access revocation, the power of attorney to mark, the hidden family document from Lisa, the lake house transfer deed with the Annie Travis clause, and the original March draft that still had my name listed. We triple backed them up. Jake encrypted them on 2 separate drives. One he gave to Rachel. The other went to my lawyer Eli Winston, a friend of Jake's, who agreed to draft a preemptive claim of asset interference in case things get nasty. Spoiler, they already were. Then I sent an anonymous email to the one person Sarah wouldn't expect, Megan Cruz. Her best friend, subject line, "You don't know what Sarah's been doing, but I think you deserve to." I attached one photo, the lake house clause, and one line of text: ask her what she did to Travis before she got on the plane. Then I scheduled an auto send for June 5. 2:55 p.m., 20 minutes before Sarah's plane touched down. Let the truth start circulating before she even set foot on U.S. soil. That night, Rachel called. "She doesn't know I know," she whispered. "Mom's still pretending nothing's wrong. She asked me to help clean the lake house tomorrow." "You going?" "Yes, and I'm copying everything else in that drawer while I'm there." I exhaled slowly. "You okay?" "No, but I can't let her get away with this." "You're sure you're not in danger?" Rachel laughed bitterly. "From Mom, no, she's a coward with pearls, but Travis, yeah? She planned this for months. You were never the mistake. You were the alibi." I couldn't sleep. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying everything: the proposal, the registry meetings, the way she used to squeeze my hand under the table at brunch and whisper, "I can't believe I get to marry you," lies, all of it. I checked the flight tracker one last time. Arrival on schedule June 5, gate then Tweetchi 1. I didn't plan to meet her at the airport. That would be dramatic, messy, predictable. Instead, I was going to file everything the moment she landed. Let her come home to the cold taste of exposure. Because you don't disappear on someone and come back to a house that still belongs to you. Not if I have anything to say about it. June 5, 3:02 p.m., I stood outside the county clerk's office, USB drive in hand. Thumb resting on the door handle. Inside was everything: the deed, the revocation forms, the notarized statement from Lisa Voss, the POA, the lake house document that tried to scrub me out of the narrative, and my name signed, then erased like I'd never been part of her future. This was the moment the Voss family stopped getting to write my story. I walked in, filed a motion for fraudulent asset removal in bad faith, and opened a formal dispute of trust execution on the lake house property. My lawyer had prepped it all. The clerk barely blinked as she stamped every page. By 3:28 p.m., it was official. There'd be a hearing. Sarah couldn't touch the house until it was resolved. At 3:31 p.m., my scheduled email to Megan Cruz went out. At 3:35 p.m., Sarah's flight landed. At 3:43 p.m., my phone lit up. "Megan Cruz, what the actual F?" "Then she told us you canceled the wedding, that you had a breakdown, that you told her to take time abroad. You paid for her plane ticket, Travis. She said you gifted it as closure. Then she's not just lying, she's pathological." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. By 4:10 p.m., Sarah tried to call me, blocked. Then she called Jake, also blocked. Then Rachel, not blocked. Rachel answered. I only know what happened next because she recorded it on speaker in her car and sent me the file. "Why are you doing this?" Sarah's voice was tight. Controlled, I trusted you. Rachel's reply, no Sarah, you used me, you used all of us, and now Travis knows everything? Sarah's breath hitched. This isn't what you think. Rachel cut her off. Don't gaslight me like you did him. Click. That night, I received 3 more messages. One from Lisa Voss, long and syrupy, warning me that pursuing legal action will only hurt both families. One from Mark Dillard, with a single line, you made this uglier than it had to be. And one from Sarah, it said, I wish you'd just let it go. We could have both moved on quietly. No apology, no regret, just that same icy detachment she used the day she blocked me from Rome. I didn't reply, but I did forward the email to my lawyer. The story didn't end there. The court date is still pending. I'm still building my case, but I've frozen the assets. Stopped the title transfer, shut down the narrative she built for herself, and most importantly, I walked away with my spine intact. She thought I'd dissolve, she thought silence meant surrender. But I didn't disappear. I got even with facts, with filings. With fire, you can vanish across Europe, rewrite the love story, and come back expecting your name on a house you stole, but eventually, the ghosted guy you left behind might just be the one who sets fire to your perfect little afterlife. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe to check out more stories on my channel.